Scar is known as one of Disney's most ruthless villains, but his story was never as simple as good versus evil. There was a time when he wasn't the monster we remember, until fate took a pretty different turn. Back in the day, he was Taka, Mufasa's younger brother and the Pride Land's second prince before he was Scar. Taka was smart, ambitious, and inquisitive. He had an eternal dream of being a leader, but had one giant hindrance. Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa. Mufasa was chosen to be the king as the firstborn, while Taka was just kind of pushed aside. Did he hate Mufasa? No, but he was sure envious of the guy. Taka thought that he was more intelligent than his brother and that the throne fitted him more. But his envy wasn't enough to make him an evil person. Yet. Now this is where it gets interesting. In the Lion Guard, we find that Scar was not born evil, but was poisoned. He was a young lion who led the Lion Guard, an assembly of lions that were meant to guard the Pride Lands. One day, Taka came across an unusual lion who had a scarred eye, similar to that which Scar would have later. As it turned out, the lion lured Taka to a cobra that ended up biting him in the eye. Now this was way more than a simple snake bite. Rafiki said, "The venom will mess up your mind. It'll be difficult to define what is right or wrong." That venom doesn't kill Scar, it just made him a little bit different. And by that I mean a homicidal maniac. Before the bite, Taka was merely jealous of Mufasa, but after that bite, it grew into an even darker envy. Taka had come back to the Pride Lands, injured but with pride. He'd killed that strange lion using the roar of the elders, an ancient power bestowed on the leader of the Lion Guard. But instead of earning him respect, he was greeted with mockery. Mufasa laughed at his story. Their father barely reacted, and worst of all, from then on, Mufasa gave him the nickname Scar. That was when, deep inside of Taka, something snapped. The poison tainted almost everything in his thoughts, and now his own family had to humiliate him too. This was the beginning of Scar's downfall. As the leader of the Lion Guard, Scar was gifted with the Roar of the Elders, a powerful ability that allowed him to call forth the great lions of the past. The venom, though, made him soups paranoid. He came to suspect that even the Lion Guard was conspiring against him, and in that moment of insanity, he unleashed the Roar against them. The Roar of the Elders should have been used as a shield and not as a weapon. For using it for evil purposes, Scar lost the Roar forever. And without the Roar, he couldn't exist. No power, no allies, no future. So what did he do? He started to deceive. But what if that wasn't his plan at first? Some theories suggest Scar never actually planned to kill Mufasa, at least not at the start. What if all Scar wanted was just a little bit of respect? What if his hatred for Mufasa grew only because nobody ever took him seriously? The venom magnified his emotions. Jealousy became the rage. His hunger for respect became a hunger for power. And once he saw the hyenas as potential allies, that was it, man. Scar made a deadly deal. He'd help the hyenas get food, and they'd help him take the throne. And that was when the plan was set in motion. And it worked. Cue the sappy music, all the emotional people crying their eyeballs out because Mufasa got ploppity-plooped. And just like that, Scar became king. But ruling a kingdom wasn't really that easy after he captured it. The hyenas wanted food, the lions wanted peace. Scar was stuck in the middle. His mind had been twisted so much by the venom that he didn't trust anybody. He ruled by fear, not by wisdom. And the worst part, when Simba returned, Scar made his biggest mistake. He betrayed the hyenas. He charged them with everything that went wrong, but Scar forgot one thing. Hyenas never forget betrayal. And when he fell, they were waiting with knife and fork and bib. Okay, so $1 million question here. What if they treated Scar's symptoms from the venom? Would he still be a villain? Or could he have been a mighty ruler? What if Mufasa and his people had actually helped him? Maybe Scar would have used his intelligence for something good. Maybe he could have been the Pride Land's greatest strategist. But what about now? Well, he was made fun of, he was rejected, and he was left to fend for himself. And that is what turned him into Scar. Mufasa was often referred to as the ideal king. But was he really? See, Scar showed intelligence, strategy, and resourcefulness. You know, the traits of a great ruler. Mufasa, on the other hand, well, his style of leadership came across as a little rigid. He was a strong leader, but he wasn't very adaptable. Maybe under different circumstances, Scar could have ruled better than Mufasa. Maybe. But that snake bite, the rejection, the humiliation, that all went way too far, and that was what created his downfall. Let's face it, Scar did some pretty nasty evil things. But was he born evil, or did these series of unfortunate events turn him into a villain? The venom, the betrayal, the teasing, the loneliness, everything mattered. Perhaps Scar wasn't the villain we thought him to be. Maybe he was just a lion who was never offered a second chance. And that right there is the real tragedy of Scar's history. Scar wasn't like your normal villain. He understood the concepts of negotiation, alliances, and survival. He was even able to put the hyenas under his control. He saw how power could be taken rather than just inherited. He understood that ruling was about more than just being strong. It was about being more cunning than all of your enemies. But sadly, Scar didn't have anybody to counterbalance him. You see, Mufasa had Sarabi, the queen with wisdom and patience, the one who instilled stability. Simba had Nala, a lioness who challenged him into action. But Scar didn't have anybody. Had Scar possessed even a loyal advisor or girlfriend, maybe even just a single friend, would he have ruled differently? It's entirely possible, but he was alone. And all that loneliness, it made him paranoid, power-hungry, and cruel. Scar had the mind of a great leader, but the heart of a lion who was just never loved. And that was his greatest downfall. Simba returned to power and balanced the Pride Lands after Scar's death, but Scar's influence never really left. The hyenas were left without leadership after Scar died, showing that even in death, he could still take the reins. His story lived on through Kovu. Kovu had been raised to follow in Scar's footsteps. Even Simba, who had defeated Scar, couldn't escape the legacy of his uncle and feared that it may be passed down to Kovu. Scar wasn't just a temporary threat. He was somebody who would forever change the course of the Pride Lands. His name would be remembered forever, for whatever it was worth. So now that we've uncovered Scar's real story, the question that remains is, was Scar really evil? Or was he a lion who was set up to fail from the very beginning? Sure, he made some horrible decisions. He killed Mufasa, he ruled through fear, he backstabbed the hyenas. But was that the only side of him that ever existed? Or was that side of him shaped by destruction? Maybe Scar never should have been a villain in the Pride Lands. Maybe he was just a lion who never had a second chance. So what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section down below. And until next time, Hakuna Matata.